Hey guys, welcome back to another awesome, amazing episode where I have got Rhea, the two-time Battle Hardened champion. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. Thank you for asking. Thank you for having me on.
No, not a problem. We had you on before with Scott Mines, and we did a real deep dive on Iyslander. And yeah, we've been keeping in touch, and I've been watching your YouTube channel, which will be plugged down below. Link is below to go check that out. There will be a amazing deck tech that you did with Iyslander. This will be put. So the deck tech's out. Well, we're recording on Wednesday. It's out today. This will be out the following day. So go check that out. Go try it out. But I really wanted to get your takes and perspective from this upcoming calling event. And what would you do? What would you take? Oh, I imagine you probably just take Iyslander anyway. But like your thoughts on the calling Birmingham, how the two Battle Hardens have maybe influenced where it was going, and just a general chat really. So yeah, calling's coming up. You've won two Battle Hardens in a row. I still think it's important that the top 8 is kind of also a big reflection on where the meta is going. What's your current thoughts with the meta at the minute?
Yeah, so if I was playing this weekend, I would be bringing Icelander again simply because it's the only deck I really have prepared right now. I mentioned this back at Cincinnati as well. Like, I wish I had been playing Lexi that weekend. If we'd like take a grand step back, I'm not biased at all.
Yeah.
I kind of think Lexi is the best deck right now, and we've seen that across these two top 8s with it really consistently top 8ing. I expect to see a lot of it this weekend, as well as Dromai. Briar is creeping up there. Levia now is like a real deck, which is the coolest thing ever.
Oh yeah.
I'm definitely rooting for Icelanders. I have no idea how they're going to do. I think with these back-to-back wins, Lexis are looking at Icelanders and saying, okay, well, Trench of Sunken Treasure is not enough. Let's also add even more tech in, and this feels like a dirty word saying it. Codex of Inertia makes that matchup atrocious for Icelander.
Wow.
And so I think if that shows up, Icelander might not be as well positioned, and we're going to see Lexi really start to dominate the field. Though the Dromai matchup is not nearly as good as it used to be, so it's probably like those two decks vying for the top right now.
Okay. I mean, so when you were storming ahead in your Battle Hardens, why do you think that you got that double win Battle Hardened performance? Is it I would also say it's quite easy that you've clearly got a full mastery and understanding of Iyslander and your deck. So that's quite evident that a lot of that is there. But there is also an element of the preparation of everyone's, preparing for an Iyslander match. It is quite clear that if you just ignore it and you see it, kind of like Kano, but not as bad as, not as polarizing as Kano. But if you just completely blank this out and it just sees you, it can just punish you so hard. Is that a fair comment?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think for Cincinnati, for the first one, people were unprepared. There was Arcane Barrier floating around, but they just weren't like mentally ready for those wizard matchups. And so, it's like we saw in the finals, right? AB0 Lexi.
Yeah.
and that matchup is still very losable for Icelander, but I drew hot, things went well, we got there, right? I think in the next week, so after that, there was a lot of conversations about, okay, well, how do you fix the Icelander matchup? Because with Warmongers Diplomacy and Encase, there's like 6 cards in the deck that almost fully just tells Lexi, hey, you take this turn off, Icelander's going to have some breathing room this turn. Plus, Channel 8 Frigid, which is just the all-star. And I think there was a lot of comments I saw that was like, oh, well, you just play Trench of Sunken Treasure, and the matchup's unlosable. Because Trench, can sink your face down arsenal card, and then you're not reliant on the Lexi flip to still have a turn. The thing that I think a lot of people missed with that tech, essentially, is that, so it's absolutely necessary that you don't get bricked by Iyslander with the 6 cards, but giving up Tunic is such a big deal that free resource every 3 turns compared to Trench, which is basically like pitching a red or pitching a card for 1 resource, is a handicap in the matchup for Lexi. And so I've actually found the matchup to be like perfectly fine. I wouldn't say favored, but it's a solid 40-60, 45-55. And so you can still get there if they don't pack any extra tech beyond that.
Yeah, it's interesting because they kind of had to, yeah, like you said, power down, right? Because it is a power up to just have a resource when you want it, rather than having a piece of tech that goes, well, I'm going to get around the gotcha. And it's like, well, that's cool, but the gotcha is if I got it, and if I can, you know what I mean? There's so many. It's got to be quite opportunistic for the Warmongers to actually be the super impact card in that moment, and it can be. It can completely just do it, right? It reminds me of Chains of Eminence or the snag of the chain meta of where, I mean, if someone just, you know, or Chains of Eminence more specifically, you know, snag is very, you know, it's a bit up in right there. But if you call the Chains of Eminence right and go, in this exact moment, I'm going to say Rivian Skies against Viscerai, and you're like, why have you got this in your deck? And oh my god, I can't believe you played this right now. And it's completely perfect because I really needed this to land. I didn't see this coming. And that's what Warmongers kind of feels like to me, where I have a 3 of a kind and I could flip and it's going to blow you out. Oh no, you got the card. But I'll tell you what I'll do to get around that. I'll completely wipe out one of the most powerful tools in my deck and you won't get me. And you're like, okay, sure.
Yeah, we went from like extremes with Tunic to more middling power across the entire game. Plus with the loss of Bullseye Bracers, which is how they really used to like get ahead early on in the matchup. And Iyslander has a lot more like time without just losing the game in the first 2 or 3 turns to find a window to get a foothold in that matchup, I think now.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. We'll talk about Dremo now. Dremo is really popular because she really does bully on people that don't really have. Well, it's just illusionists, isn't it? Really, illusionists have this great position of bullying people who kind of don't really have a weapon to deal with board state, or heroes that have very low action point. Like they just go just one big hit, right? That'll do it. So we've got Ranger that hasn't got a weapon, and it's quite a perfect opportunity. That sounds like a bad time for Iyslander to become what, you know, the hotness that, but for somehow you pulled it out of the bag. But going forward, what's your thoughts with Dremo being really popular?
Yeah, so I think it's very important because it's important to note that the Empress Dromai, the red line Dromai that Mara Ferris has been an advocate for, really is much more popular right now. So across the Battle Hardened event, I played 3 Dromais. I played Brody Spurlock twice and Gui in the finals. And both of them were on that sort of red line build, just 6 blues in the list. And that means that, so absolutely, heroes that don't have a weapon can really struggle to combat that board state. But what we've seen is the 2 heroes at the top of the meta that don't have a weapon, Lexi and Iyslander, are both ice heroes. So Lexi's Frostbites and Winter's Bite and Icelander's Frostbites can really mess with a 4 red hand, which happens a lot when you have 6 blues in your deck. And I think that's why Dromai just isn't absolutely dominating the meta right now. She's just powerful enough that we're not seeing like a resurgence of Fi to just beat those dragons on the board with mass momentum.
Yeah.
It's just a really interesting balance right now, I think, between, Dromai can't get too greedy and just not play any blues because then might see an Icelander rise too high. But if she plays too many, she starts getting inconsistent, not
Yeah.
having enough ash or reds to really do anything impactful. Um, I think it's really interesting that the big dragons have kind of fallen off in popularity.
I'm
I
interested by
guess.
that as well because we've got two fantastic Dremo players in Europe with Ian Zhang and
Mhm,
Jamie Faulkner, who are just from my knowledge on my end, they're massive powerhouses.
mhm.
They seem to just they're Icelander's worst nightmare. Right? When you got
Yeah,
these
absolutely.
big dragons, and then they just go, "Oh, well, I guess I'll just put 2 copies of Thermai in.
Mhm.
That's this matchup solved."
Uh,
I know, right? I know,
yeah.
but
It-
I'm intrigued by that as well, and I completely agree with you that the Mara Faris Redline aggro one is actually such a much more manageable place to be for Icelander. So
mhm.
that's also really, it's like you said, really good point that Dromai's just ebb and flowing on what way we need to go. But if we're staying where we are in this red line Dromai matchup, Icelander's is in a fighting spot.
Fighting spot's a good way to put it. Yeah, it's even-ish in terms of who wins the matchup. I think it depends on if their themis are like really well timed. That can just be absolutely backbreaking.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then we've also like the rise of Bravo again. He is taking up the Guardian spot. There has to be
Hmm.
a Guardian, right?
Absolutely.
Did
Block 9 bonk.
yeah.
Best turn in Flesh and Blood.
Did you face up many Bravos in your Battle Hardened Swiss rounds?
So the two Bravos at Cincinnati.
Mm,
I beat one in the second round, and then I lost to Ben Hannon, I think is his name, on stream, third round.
right.
Um, there were no more that Battle Hardened. I don't believe I played any in Chicago, but they were dancing around those top tables. I know none of them made the top cut.
Right.
Battle Hardened, excuse me, Bravo is kind of one of the reasons I have to make concessions and play the six poppers,
Right.
besides Dromai as well. Just if they pack AB3 and they're really patient, arcane damage just isn't enough. And so I do have to actually attack them sometimes, even though it goes against my wizard heart to say that.
But at the same time, you're not going to die on that hill, are you? you go.
Correct.
You got to somehow get this matchup good, and if we need to throw in something, then yeah, absolutely, I could agree. Do you think that? So that match, how do you think that matchup is? Is it still a little bit on the 50-50 side?
I think the matchup is really good for Icelander.
Right.
Obviously, a Bravo can high roll, and there's just nothing you can do about it.
That's him against everyone, though, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Bravo high rolling is just the best deck in Flesh and Blood.
Yeah.
Um, and then there's the other end of the spectrum as well. So in the PTI event on Sunday for Chicago, I played versus a Bravo in round four, I believe.
Right.
And the first 5 turns of the game,
Uh,
I didn't draw any reds. I drew
oh
0 reds.
my.
So I died with 2 Insidious Chills on the board, just because like I can't do anything. But
Oh, it's one of
if
them, isn't
you're
it?
but if your deck cooperates, if you just really get into that good cycle of like attack for 7 on your turn, 6 arcane, it's just you're presenting damage at roughly the same rate as them. Like
Mm,
Bravo doesn't have a bunch of on rate above rate things. If you look at just like raw resource numbers,
mm.
and so you walk down at the same speed, and you have Storm Striders to close the game. So
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
mhm.
Now we've got the new queen of death and destruction now with Levia.
Yeah.
That's how have you managed to look at that matchup?
So complete opposite of Bravo, right? I
Right.
want to play 0 attacks into Levia.
Yeah.
She's really reliant on filling her graveyard for those cards that need to banish 3 cards from the graveyard. And if you don't attack her, she can't block, she can't put free cards in the yard.
Yeah.
And it really slows her down in the early game, gives you like some free breathing room to develop Insidious Chills, Channel Lake Frigids, things like that. And then so you just kind of walk down a little slowly in the early game. Once she starts to commit to Blood Debt, build up a little bit of that banished cash. I'm trying to jockey into a position where she goes into her turn with like 15-ish life. And if she wants to do anything, I'm going to punish her with arcane damage and push her past that 13 deficit so that she can't flip to consumed anymore.
Yeah.
And after that, I think the game gets kind of trivial if they don't get to redraw those Dread Screamers they were banishing from their yard.
Yeah, no, yeah, I agree. One of my friends have been practicing a lot of Levia, and I've just been really enjoying playing Icelander again. And Scabs is a pain in the butt though, but I will say that if you just never roll past a 4, it is like, well, I think she just does that to everyone, doesn't she? If a brute can just keep doing 4, you are like, well, whatever.
I guess it's a bit. So I gave a very narrow focus answer there in terms of like Icelander versus Levia. I think in the general meta, she's pretty good. I mean, we've seen back-to-back top 8s across the 2 Battle Hardens. Her ability to just like block 3 and then send 13 damage off a 3-card hand is absurd.
It is, yeah, no, absolutely. A lot of that is down to, I think a lot of that is down to just that really good armor suite of Husk and the Scowling Flesh Bag. It's almost like
what a card,
right?
Awesome.
Yeah, I know. It's just it's such an amazing card. I haven't seen anyone, and Mansant, you probably go check out Mansant's stuff because he will tell you why Redeemed is really, really good. But it seems to be Consumed, right, is the real, like, you're trying to get there. And if you get there, it just feels like, I don't know, it feels like Chain, bro. Like, you see this, all this stuff? I've got, like, another card in my hand, and I can play that whenever I want. And you just lacing those Dread Screamers for like, you're happy to just throw them out and they go, yeah, they're in the banish zone now. And you're like, that's brilliant. That's exactly where I want them to be, because it's just going to end up with so much pain for you when it comes round. But I do believe that you playing Icelander is actually really problematic for a Levia, because I think you actually have one of the few heroes that can actually just go, I'd probably just definitely make sure you won't get to 13, right? Because I will just chip you to 213 or something. You know what I mean? Or just get you over by 1, and that's it. That whole plan is gone. But yeah, no, Levia has been a bit of an interesting hero for me. I mean, is there anyone else really that is in this sphere that is, if you were like, you know, that you're intrigued of? And I know you probably don't know what the Europeans are doing, right? But I mean, you know, Briar or something like that. Do you know what I mean? That must be a bit of a weird one.
Briar is about where I was first to go. I think she's the best positioned Runeblade right now, just because she can do some really unfair things to kind of cheat games out of Lepsy. Viserai obviously is very powerful, but a little flatter in terms of damage compared to like Channel Mount Heroic Snatch turns.
Channel Mount Heroic, man. But it's weird, right? Because what's changed with Briar? Like, Oldham's gone.
Anthem of Spring is a pretty big deal. Being able to block 8 with 2 cards against like Bravo, 2-card Crippling Crush block, no armor committed. It's pretty huge.
Yes, that's true. That's almost like an immovable level, isn't it? Of where you just go. But
on a blue.
On a blue. I know, it's crazy. But it's still that. Yeah, no, maybe that is that card really just that much of a push in the right direction?
I mean, it's a small upgrade, but it is an upgrade. Like, just no one's playing Weave Earth anymore. No,
that's true. That's true. Yeah, maybe it's just, I personally found it fascinating that it was popped off as much as it did, because when I was looking at it, I mean, apart from that one new Earth card, I was just like, bro, this is Briar. Like, this is just it's just Briar. It's just the same Briar stuff, doing what Briar is really good at. But everyone, in the last season went, nah, it's not going to cut it. And now it's suddenly like, oh, like I'm just intrigued. Why?
Yeah, so if I'm stepping back like one step further, I think it's also important that she's the Runeblade least impacted by Warmongers diplomacy.
Right.
Ravenous Rabble, Snatch. All right, I voted war. My turn's perfectly fine.
Yeah, that's true. So I still find it that maybe it's just more of a question of Runeblades. Is Runeblades as a class in a good spot right now? Because maybe if you said which is the best Runeblade to take, I would probably agree with you. Yeah, Briar's probably in a real good spot right now because of the current cards that are out that she's least affected. But I'm still just intrigued why is Runeblades actually in a very good spot in this meta in general.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm not particularly sure. Like, I don't necessarily think they're the best aggro deck. That's Lexi.
Yes.
But I think it might be the best unfair deck. Like, you just win some games that you shouldn't.
I think that's
because of the Runeblade high roll.
Yeah, Runeblade is just the best unfair class.
All right, well, you got me.
Yeah, I think maybe that's something I just never really I haven't put too much thought of. But it's interesting that you bring it up. And it makes me go, oh yeah, actually, that's probably why you just be unfair, and just be unfair, and it'll win you a lot of games. Cool. What's your high? So we'll end it on this point. What are you most looking forward to? Non-Icelander related, right? We'll
take my bias out.
Yeah, we'll take that away. But what are you most looking forward to seeing? What will come from the UK calling this weekend?
So obviously I'm ravenous to see what the top 8 looks like, because I want to see like the real meta breakdown of a really large event after. Sorry, hit the mic.
Very good.
The really large event after these like first 2 prelude events, essentially.
Yeah.
I really am. I'm very curious if we see any Ziri breakout. That's my hot take. I think Lexi is going to be up there enough that a Ziri is just going to like sneak in there on the edge, unexpected.
But Dremo though. I think
Dremo though,
very scary hero for a lot of these. It's
true.
Dremo, I believe, is the bully. It's the real bully, not Lexi. Lexi is the litmus test of where if you got to be Lexi, but who's the bully? Just like the Starvo meta, or maybe not the Starvo meta, but Prism. Prism was this real bully that just went, well, you can't show up because I'm here, and you're like, that's true. We can't show up because you're here, but we do a good job against them. Yeah, but so do I. True. So why? Maybe I can't show up because you're here. You're the real bully. So Dremo is actually the reason people are actually kind of hunkering down a little bit.
I like that a lot. Dromai is the bully and Lexi is the litmus test. That's a really good way to put it. Just describing the top of the meta right now.
Yeah. Well, I'll just make it up. But that's why I bounce off really amazing players like yourself. That's just why I love doing these interviews and conversations, because, it just makes me sort of think, actually, yeah. But I agree. I would love to see a Ziri. Ziri is one of my favorite heroes that when I'm casting, I would love to see what Azuri can do. I will be tragic because I just know an Azuri versus Dremo matchup is like, oh, yeah. This is watching someone punching someone and there's nothing much they can do is kind of a bit. Meh.
We did see Sam Dando's Redline Azuri list at the top 8 of the Cincinnati Battle Hardened, and that list really can race down a Dromai if they're not careful. Yeah,
again, it depends what sort of Dromai are we facing up against. If it's these big dragon ones, it does feel more like. But it's almost like the Bravo Prism matchup, when you're like, okay, let's watch a very or Prism versus Iyslander or Prism versus Kano. You just like, let's all watch this funeral.
Okay, well, we've said the name enough. my last hot take. I really want to see a Prism breakout this weekend.
Yeah.
So badly. I
Really?
want someone to break that deck.
But
I
sure.
love Prism. Prism was one of my first competitive decks before I started playing it, like Icelander, because Icelander didn't exist yet.
Surely she would bully Icelander out of existence.
No. It's not
Oh.
nearly as bad as it used to be. Not nearly as bad as it used to be.
It's a lot of ward, bro. It's a lot of ward. It's a lot.
It's a lot of ward, but
Genesis.
We have Wayne Moon.
That's true.
Wayne Moon's really good at popping ward.
Yeah. Merciful Retribution, though. Nah.
Yeah, but are they playing that card right now?
Oh, why would you not play that card? If they pop the Herald, it goes into Soul, and you go grab yourself an Angel. That's a pretty good interaction.
No, I've been trying to brew Prism a little bit. I haven't found it yet.
No,
I'm really excited to see if someone has.
I will end this on this note then, Vincent. No one's talking about Vincent at all.
I mean, there were quite a few Vincents at Chicago.
All right,
Both
well,
the
from my
Runaways,
end, we didn't really see it.
Yeah. So I know that at least a handful of the Runaways and one or two members of the Wolfpack brought Vincent.
Right.
Didn't go so great.
Right.
I think, if I remember right, the best Vincent on the weekend was 4-4, which is like not where you want to be.
No.
A hero is really cool. It's just if you fall behind, the mandatory banish is so hard to get out from underneath.
Yeah. But I think I have this. I put Vincent in that same boat as Prism, where I think everyone feels that Prism is the she's gonna something there, right? It's gonna be crazy good, right? I'm like that with Vincent. I'm just like, no, bro. I honestly, if someone can crack Vincent, I think they would win the call-in, like straight up, because Vincent has also some extremely unfair moves.
Oh, just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a Runeblade. The Runeblade class is unfair, built to be unfair. But it's another puzzle, just like Prism. I would love to see someone figure it out. It's also very early days. I also believe that the Battle Hardened meta has done a number on the call-in. It can't not, right? Even though it's not like the calling level event, but you've still got some very, very good players like yourself and Brody and Sam Dando, and I shouldn't have started this because there's loads of names and I can't remember them all off the top of my head, but there's loads of great players taking part, and for us as Europeans, we're looking at this just as much as you guys will be looking at what we're doing, and if we came first, that would have affected your meta.
Oh, for 100%. Sure, yeah.
If there was a Battle Hardened in the UK or in France or whatever, so it's very hard not to have something like this warp the calling meta. But you getting 2 wins with Icelander has definitely made everyone go, have we really got to worry about Icelander now? Because we really weren't, and now we are.
Yes, you do.
Yes, you do. Rhea, thank you so much for jumping back on again. I've always enjoyed having this chat. I believe we need to have more of this because it's such a wonderful person to speak to. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
Right. Catch you in a bit, everyone.